here, and in today's video we're checking out the Midicake Arp. Arp is a dedicated arpeggiator with 4 lanes or 4 tracks of arpeggios, so you could send out incredibly complex arpeggios to a polysynth, or you could send it out to multiple synths. You can even connect it to your DAW and control multiple VSTs simultaneously. The plan today is to give a brief overview on how this works and then have some jams. That sounds good, please stick around. Also, please do subscribe if you're not already. We're getting really close to 20,000 subscribers, which totally blows my mind. And if you could help me get there, then that would be amazing. So yeah, let's dive into the video. Okay, so here is Arp, and I just want to give a sort of quick overview of some of the basics so that you understand what's actually happening in the video. But firstly, what is an arpeggio? It's basically when you take the notes of a chord like this and play them consecutively. What makes Arp different is that there are actually 4 tracks of arpeggiators, and it's also way deeper than any arpeggiator that you're going to find built into a synthesizer. So let's get it up and running and take a look at the controls. So firstly, we can transpose our arpeggiator using the keyboard on the front panel. We can also change chords here. Are sort of 8 chords on the front panel here, but you can actually dive in and choose from a sort of endless amount of different scales and modes and chords. You can even create your own, which is great. And if we hit the set button, we go into the controls for the actual arpeggiator itself. Let's start with gate here, because it's got quite a nice feature here where we can change the length of the gates. So we could have more of that sort of sustain coming through. Change the octave. We can add steps. We can change the division. We can go super slow, which can actually be really handy when you've got multiple arps running simultaneously. We can change the direction. The usual candidates are in there. And we have this cool feature called jump, which sort of skips notes in the scale. The bounce button is cool. This is where we get different types of arpeggiating patterns. Work quite nicely with the jump effect. And we can even add our own patterns in here. And we have repeat, where we can repeat every note of the step of the arpeggio. And actually in here we've got some other functions like chop and ratchet. So that's cool. But let's go back to a sort of basic pattern here. I'm going to take the steps down to 1. I'm going to bring the octave down. And then bring in some of the other tracks. I have track 2 in chord mode. And track 3 and 4 are doing sort of faster arpeggios. have to manually input the chords the way I'm doing just now. We can create our own chord chains. We can also do loads of generative stuff. It's incredibly deep. And as I mentioned earlier, you can have this controlling multiple synths simultaneously. So that's what we're going to dive into for the rest of the video. It really is a very deep machine and there's loads of nice little tricks. The final one I want to show here is if we hit the play button again, we get a really nice freeze function which can be very performative. But yeah, let's dive into some jams. This jam, I'm using the Melbourne Instruments Nina, which is a polysynth, but most importantly it's 4-part multi-timbral, and that means I can use the 4 tracks on the Minicake Arp to control 4 different sounds on Nina. So let's take a listen to the different sounds. This is layer 1, just doing a very basic bass line. And one of the great things about Nina is you can actually just hit these 4 buttons to have access to your 4 different sounds, and it means you know exactly the controls for the front panel for each preset. Let's bring in layer 2. And something that was really just made me laugh when I did it was I tuned up oscillator 1 from like standard to a 5th. It just sounds so good. On layer 3, I have this little sound, and I was using the morph control. The Nina can store 2 sounds per preset to make this sort of wobbly sound, which doesn't actually sound very good on its own, but I think in the context of the track, kind of works in a weird way. Then on layer 4, I have this kind of classic sync sound. And I was tuning that up a 5th as well. I should mention that all of this is happening because I'm in the chord chain mode on the Minicake Arp. You can actually set up really complex chord progressions of up to 32 chords long, and you can set the length for each chord, etc. And you can really easily change to a different chord progression just by holding this button and then choosing one of these controls. So much fun. And this is definitely the type of chord progression I wouldn't normally come out with. Tell that I'm actually not doing a lot in this jam. Arp's kind of doing all of the hard lifting, and I'm not actually a person who likes song modes or chord chains in gear typically. In fact, I almost never use it. I'm just not kind of interested. But on Arp it is actually incredibly easy to set up. As complex as this composition sounds, it came together really easy, and making the chord chain is super easy as well. But let's break down the sounds, starting with this one, because this one is using a sort of generative random technique. You can set up modulation to almost any of the parameters here. So I am modulating the jump, which moves notes in the scale, and you can actually use a bunch of patterns which are called seeds. There's like 128 sort of random patterns, and then you can lock them in place. I've got mine set to 4 bars, but it goes all the way up to 256 bars, so you can get super long generative things happening. On layer 2 I have this nice kind of chord progression in the chord mode again. On layer 1, I have this really nice arpeggio. And on layer 3, I have this kind of slow arpeggio. Sounds fantastic. On the OP1, I've got a string sample.
Ready for takeoff. Requesting permission. Over. Clearance granted. Awaiting further instruction. Faculty scan verified. DNA blocker detected. Unauthorized life form detected. Commence vaporization. All crew members are now deceased. Alien life forms detected. Threat level is severe. Thank you for flying with Cybertech Industries.
So in this jam, I am controlling Nina and the Tasty Chips Electronics GR1. So let's have a listen to the individual parts. This beautiful pad is coming from the GR1. On Nina, I have two sounds. Get this one. And this one. I have it running, the second sound, running at a really slow rate and also with an offset, or a delay rather, of 25%, so the notes are kind of coming off the beat. I thought it had a real sort of sci-fi vibe, so I used a text-to-speech AI generator thing to make this little sample.
Ready for takeoff. Requesting permission. Over. Clearance granted. Awaiting further instruction. Faculty scan verified. DNA blocker detected. Unauthorized life form detected. Commence vaporization. All crew members are now deceased.
to summarise, I've really enjoyed working with ARP, and I think the music which I've made in this video is kind of testament to how creative a tool it can be, and I think I'm going to pursue some of these jams and see if I can turn them into actual finished tracks, which is always a sign of good gear. And as far as I'm aware, it's just a one-man show, so big shout out to Midicake for pulling this off, and also for the constant updates. I believe we're on firmware version 8 just now, which is amazing. So it does constantly get improvements. The only real criticism I have of it is maybe some of the presets are a bit sort of underwhelming, but I kind of also understand that because you don't really know what setup everyone's going to be using, so you need to try and make presets which will just work and sound good. But yeah, if you've enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and a comment. If you'd like to help support the channel, then I have a Patreon where I upload extra videos and sample packs. You can sign up to that for as little as £3 and it really does make a big difference. I also have an online store. I have a couple of cassettes for sale. You can grab these on my Bandcamp, and there are some affiliate links down below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon. Take care.